he doesn't really need an introduction, but you guys know Nan is our founder and CEO, and it'll be 20 years.
Yeah, next year. So my name is Nandagopal. That's a pretty long name, and so kind of shorten it to just 3 letters, Nan. That's my user-friendly name. I so appreciate all of you here today, and thank you all from bottom of my heart to have an opportunity to serve you all. So look forward to continued relationships, and wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving.
Awesome. And I'm, for those of you that don't know, I'm the Chief Growth Officer here, so I run our growth strategy, our sales team, which is expanding. We have an operation now in Houston, Texas, so we're moving into the state of Texas as well. We're excited about that this year. And so our sales team and sales support functions. So as we get started, the topic today is moving from hype to business value. We really want to focus on that as it relates to AI. And tonight I'm going to put Nan on the spot. He's going on the hot seat. We're going to talk a lot about the insights that we've been hearing from the market and from our customers. Many of you are our customers in the market around AI and Gen AI. Nan, as we get started, let's zoom in. We're 18 months away from the time when Gen AI hit the stage and people were using it for homework and for trip planning and artistic purposes. And now the dust is settling on the technology and the capabilities, and the enterprise is really taking note of that and looking for opportunities to deploy AI solutions and Gen AI solutions to really drive business value. So finding ways to deploy the technology with ROI intact. But as we think about the market today, how would you characterize it from what you've learned talking to our customers and talking with our sales team, what they're hearing from our customers? What do you see?
Yeah, I think it's coming full circle. Like, people are definitely using all the tools that they have at their disposal for their own personal productivity. They definitely know it can help more from an enterprise standpoint, but the context is really the key here, right? You can't go into a chat window, do something, copy paste it into your workflow, and kind of accomplish that. So really, how do you infuse AI within your workflow, within your context, so you don't have to leave what you're doing and kind of accomplish productivity, right, or operational efficiency, or drive revenue, or whatnot. So that's really kind of where it's going. And agentic solutions definitely offer that, talk to that promise. Now, it's still a promise, and that dust is not settled. There's so much evolving with the whole ADK, the agent development toolkits, and all the robustness of the solution. It's not all that defined yet, but that's kind of where I see at the moment.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we're very familiar with customers in the Midwest and certainly here in Southwest Ohio. I just gave a talk on preparing your organization for agentic AI at Elevate IT in Houston, and we had about 65 people, a lot of them from oil and gas in the audience, and those folks are still just trying to figure it out, a lot of them. They haven't even started getting into the space of prototypic deployments and figuring out how that's going to be able to transform their business.
So I think it's really the media, marketing, telecom, and then professional services. These are the industries that are at the very top of usage of AI. To the point, they're also jettisoning some of the people that they have, but most of the industries are still there.
Yeah, and I think in that analysis, energy is like at the bottom of the list of the adopters. Yeah, so you guys are moving fast forward out here in the Midwest. So, you and I talk to leaders on a regular basis, and some of them feel behind, and some are trying everything. Throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. Not the best strategy. But some don't even know how to evaluate the ROI, and that's really the thing that we want to talk about a lot today is how do you generate ROI on your investments? How do you pick the right use cases? How do you determine the right technology, the right models to use, a lot of those elements. And I know you've been leading our technology group to do that R&D work behind the scenes to figure out how can we pick, just in time, the elements that really enable us to build solutions. And I know we built some for ourselves. We're going to be sharing a little bit about that. But when you look at across the market today, where are most organizations in their actual maturity? And let me just give you a characteristic of, Level 0 would be exploration. They're just exploring, trying to figure out what it is. Level 1 would be pilots. They've got pilot projects out there. They're building demo applications or solutions, but they're isolated. Those pilots are isolated. They're not an ecosystem. Level 3 would be production pockets where real work is being done, and there's some ROI starting to emerge from that. It's proving itself out. And then level 3 would be platform maturity, where the AI is integrated into systems and there's real value and everybody sees that all the way to the C-suite. But where do you think the bulk of the marketplace that we serve is today in their maturity between level 0, 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, I think every customer really has a couple of dimensions on which you can score. There are use cases for off-the-shelf systems, like most companies use off-the-shelf systems, and all those are being infused with AI. And there's pretty high degree of adoption there, right? Because it's a very controlled context, and you can introduce these things, and you can, gain some leverage there. But on the other side, if you have to build your own little solution, that's kind of where most of them are still in that level 2,
Mm-hmm.
the experimentation, maybe pilot stage. But I haven't seen a lot of production use of those things, right? And that's kind of where you will get some competitive advantage. If you want to build something for yourself, then that means there's not a solution out there in the market. That means you are going to get some advantage by building that yourself. And that's kind of the hardest thing to do at this point.
Yeah, by a show of hands, so I'm going to ask a kind of strange question, but I think you'll get it. And then by a show of hands, if you're doing it, raise your hand. So in the production world of your own personal life, in the day-to-day use of it, how many of you are using Gen AI for just routine things that you need to get done that you've experimented with, by a show of hands? Like, is there not a hand that, I think everybody put their hand up, right, inside the room. So we're figuring out in our personal lives how to move this whole technology stack forward. And somebody comment on the value. Give an example of something that you're doing using Gen AI that has really saved a lot of time in the doing of that thing. Somebody give an example. Shuba, you look like you've got one.
My husband doesn't ask me any questions anymore.
Oh, so you get your husband to use Gen AI.
Todd's better than me at answering the questions.
Well, that's awesome. Somebody else though. What's your name again?
Ryan.
Ryan.
Meal planning and generating my shopping list.
Meal planning, and how much productivity gain do you think you've gotten out of that?
A couple hours a week.
Wow, really interesting. Anybody else? I've got one. I planned a trip across Europe. Didn't use a travel agent or anything. I used ChatGPT to plan I was in Sweden, France, Paris, the Riviera, Barcelona, Ibiza, all in 3 weeks, and I used ChatGPT to do it. It even got me the cheapest airfares.
You used an agent though.
What's that?
You used an agent of a different kind.
So yeah, we see the potential and the opportunity, but now let's see by a show of hands within your organizations to the production floor, how many of you have pushed the use of Gen AI to the production floor in your organizations? Maybe 3 or 4 people in the room.
Oh, very cool.
So there's a lot, so we got to figure this out, don't we? And we are the leaders that can do it. Okay, so Nan, one thing we keep reinforcing with our clients is the need to shift from a project mentality where milestones exist in this investment, in this journey to something that gets on the production floor, to an outcomes mindset. An outcome when it comes to thinking about AI, agentic AI, and how those things can move the needle. So that's really a focus on return on investment, right? ROI. It's a business conversation more than a technology conversation. So traditional IT planning really is focused on that sort of waterfall approach to how projects work, or sprints within an agile framework, but it breaks down in the AI context. So this level of thinking that got us to those kinds of projects is not going to get us to success with ROI on the shop floor, because the AI systems are probabilistic, they're iterative, and they're learning based. It's an evolution. So from your perspective, what shifts? Why is the shift in the way we think about these projects so critical to success?
See, I mean, you start all the way at the top, right? Yesterday I was having a dinner with the CIO. The demand he had from marketing was they wanted a new CRM system. Now everyone understands what a CRM system does, and he does not have to build a huge business case to go buy one, right? His challenge will be really figuring out which one to buy, right? The CEO will usually be, the board will be okay with that. But if you turn that to a, hey, I want to build a AI proof of concept, right? And if you have a big build out cost, the CFO definitely wants to know what is the ROI around this piece, right? So really, there are 4 pillars, right? I use, which is really, does it drive revenues? Does it drive some operational efficiencies? Can it get me some competitive advantages? Can I go get more market share, or things like that? Or can it mitigate some risks for me, right? If there's service level agreements or things like that where I might lose some money, or things like that, can it mitigate it for me? So which of those 4, right, value drivers do you want to align to, right? So that actually becomes really the most important part. If you can't align that to these business outcomes, it'll just be technology in search of a problem. You really want to start with that clarity, right? And when I say value drivers, it's really quantifying. You said it saves you a couple of hours a week, right? Putting the meal thing. So what is its equivalent inside of the business, right? When I run this thing, I'll save 2 engineers with about 150K salary. I'll save 20% of their time, right? So now you can quantify what that is. So that's kind of how we are talking about from a value driver standpoint. But really, going back to your question, so these things become important. So none of these are technology related. It's really the CIOs or the technology folks here, right, have always been, challenged with, like a CRM, you didn't have to go justify, but now you may have to go justify. CFOs are asking for that kind of justification. But after that big layer of alignment of business value to your use case, then comes all your data problems and the quality and other things, right, that you may have to keep in mind. But there's also an iterative mindset you will have to have. One thing may not work, in one job, because it's not a structured program that it will continuously behave the same way. Each time you run it, it might give you a different response. It might be hallucination and so on, right? So you will have to be somewhat flexible. You can't get 100% of all your test cases passed sometimes, right? So you really have to set some guide rails and sort of iterate with it. Finally, you shouldn't look at it as a single process. You really have to graduate that to some kind of program, to a platform kind of a mindset. So really bringing that whole product mindset to the overall, concept. So those are some of the things.
Yeah, I think in a nutshell, you're saying what got us here won't get us there with AI. We got to do something different. We got to think differently and do something differently. I should even have the audience all repeat this after me. What got us here won't get us there. Let's try it. What got us here won't get us there. I can't even hear you. I'm not going to go there. All right, let's keep. We'll be here all night. We're going to do push-ups. You guys know that. Yeah, there are push-ups in this presentation. All right, Nan. This question, we had a really interesting time talking about this question that's coming up next. So we see leaders. Where's Colleen? Raise your hand. Colleen's out there. Andy, someplace out there. Raise your hand, Andy. We're out there in the field talking to our clients. Some of these conversations may be revealing some of you and how you're thinking. So, but we will withhold names, and we won't even look at who we're talking to. No, I'm just kidding. But we see leaders that are overwhelmed with choices when it comes to this Gen AI space. And a lot of the conversations we're having now, and wherever Audrey is there, we have a marketing outreach approach to really introduce the AI first thinking that we have out there in the marketplace. So we're talking to a lot of people who are at the tip of the spear, just now trying to figure it out and get started, and they seem to be overwhelmed. That's what we hear a lot, and we've been talking about that. With the choices, what technology stack do I pick? What model do I use? And a lot of them they realize, like we've all realized in our personal lives, that we can apply Gen AI to things that we need to do for ourselves because we know better what those things are. We wouldn't go to a department or somebody and ask them to build a solution to help us meal plan. We just pick Gen AI and then go see if we can meal plan using it, right? We're closest to the value proposition. So a lot of the conversations that we're having are in organizations where they want to push the power to the people. They want to create an agentic framework, a set of tools with a low-code, no-code approach that can be consumed by the engineers in the field, or the construction site managers in the field, or the financial planners at point of application for approving a loan, to let them be able to create agents that bring productivity and value to their tabletop. And so, but many of these leaders aren't sure where to start because they don't really understand what problem they're trying to solve. So, is it customer service? Is it operations? Is it in IT? Is it coding using Claude Code? What is it? Is it analytics? But there's also this fear, and I don't know if you guys have this, of picking the wrong technology, because we do have this sort of capital investment thought frame for technology. And even the CFO thinks, don't they, Dan? They think a lot about IT is an expense, a cost center, we've got to control it, right? So we have to watch what they're spending on. So this idea that we're going to spend a lot of money on something, we've got to pick the right tool so it's not the wrong bet. And so we see this struggle, and what we're missing, and I think you're going to talk to this, is the focus on business value, use case, strategic objectives. Where are we driving the needle? Focusing on that, not on the technology, and letting the technology be just in time. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of that shift of mindset to think the use case, the return on investment opportunity, the peanut butter efficiency gains that add up within the organization? Talk about that, Nan.
Yeah. So basically, we talk about this thing called the AI flywheel within the organization. You really have to start with experimentation. It yields some results, sometimes you may not, but then you graduate to piloting, then you kind of graduate to operationalizing those things, and you kind of go about it in cycle. As you go, can you close those cycles, right? Shorter cycles, and can you do that? But a lot of times you might not see some of that success overall, right? With some of the experimentation. But the things that do pass, you take it to the next stage. So not so much, set on a particular technology or a framework. It's really what results are the experimentation phase is, yielding, and then kind of graduating that to that. So you really have to see it as a continuous flywheel and kind of experiment with that. That was answer to the first part of the question. But what was your second part?
Well, it was really the idea that you have to think about not about the technology, but about the business use cases and the return on investment lanes that those use cases exist
Right,
in.
and so what ideas or what use cases you pick, that has to be much more thought given to it. Like, what are your value drivers and how do you quantify it? What are your cost drivers? How do you quantify that? And then using all that, what's my ROI or an internal payback period or a net present value? These are things your CFOs will love, and if you can actually take a well put together business case, it actually clarifies your own thought, right? Like, as I pursue this use case, can I realize this kind of return? And this kind of real numbers, right? And can it be measurable? So as you back into that, it'll force you to look at your technology frameworks. It'll force you to look at your data. It'll force you to look at your governance and the quality thereof, or accessibility to these documents if it's unstructured data, right? And things like that. So you can actually back in and really kind of mentally visit the success map before you actually go on and do the actual travel, if you will, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think about the framework that is even being pushed out there by Anthropic and OpenAI around really recommending weekly iteration. You have to be loose on the technology and tight on the outcome that you're trying to figure out. Can you generate? And this experimentation will lead to that production opportunity. But you got to pick the right use cases, and I think that's what we're seeing. And saying the tool that we're going to talk about a little bit here in demo is all about that. What I love about the conversations you and I have is that I'm out there front face to the customer with the sales team, and we're getting that G2 from the market, collaborating with marketing and bringing that in. You're a deep thinker when it comes to the technology side of the house and the innovation that our team can bring to the table with as a leader, with this flexibility element of your thinking that says, let's invest some of our senior engineering time in figuring out how to make these things work. And that just seems to be like what we're doing in-house. We're like you guys. We're figuring out where can we put Gen AI and AI into our workflows, and we've got a number of applications that are helping us move forward in the marketplace vis-a-vis the competition. We think about the proposal side of things, or responding to RFPs, or we think about how we look at the optimization of how our project teams are configured. We were finding those high value use cases. You're endorsing those and taking them into the lab. We're building solutions because of that expertise, and that's really what we're hoping you guys can kind of take away from the thoughts of this, how you should go back and be thinking about those things. Comment on that collaboration, because I'm like a business guy, right, and you're like the CTO technical guy in one lane of your
Yeah, I think,
thinking.
see, at least this last couple of quarters, we've had to put together very detailed business use cases, right? So it's the technology architecture, we can do that. We can, implement something, we can definitely do modernize, or, do I buy, build, or what kind of framework. Those are easy things to do, but really putting a business use case, it requires a slightly different set of muscles, especially at this level of detail that is being asked today. So we've run into that quite a bit. And so it took about 4 to 8 hours to sort of put together a good business use case with enough polish, so that our champion, right, our customer, can take it to their board and kind of get approval for those projects that they want to do. So as we were doing this, right, we kind of figured out a sort of a methodology, right? So we said, hey, how can we compress that time? I am in the middle of some of these things, and there are so many business analysts all spending time. What can we put in the hands of our salespeople, where we don't have to be there and they can have this kind of conversation directly with the customer? So we kind of went and did our own little agentic decomposition of the work. Like, we took this entire work and chopped it into small pieces. We said, okay, this was an agent, can we orchestrate that to kind of get this and eliminate myself and 4 or 5 other folks from this mix, right? And sort of put that autonomy in the hands of salespeople. I think Andy loves this, but it's also in beta stage, and I was going to kind of do a little demo too today of that agentic framework.
Awesome. So, he's the CEO, he's where all the bucks stop when Cindy, wherever she is, counts them up, And so, let's talk money, Nan. Can we talk money? Cindy, can we talk money? I didn't hear you. Cindy said we can talk money. Because every CFO we meet is hung up on money. And Cindy comes to my office on a regular basis. Okay, how are you going to fund this? And I go to Nan and say, can you talk to Cindy? You're the CEO, can you talk to your CFO? But anyway, they want a spreadsheet. They want predictable ROI. Am I right, Cindy? How many times have you come asking me for a spreadsheet? But AI doesn't behave like a capital project, and most companies aren't sure what to measure anyway, right, at the end of the day. So, Nan, from your perspective, or maybe Cindy from yours, why is it so hard for organizations to build a financial case for AI? And what are they missing in that equation? What's missing?
I've talked about it, right? It's primarily the understanding of what value it creates. Most times when we talk about value, it's in high overarching kind of terms. It's not specific. It's not something that the CFO would say, I can see how this adds value. Most times when they talk about with IT, it's like they second guess that. They may even scoff at it. It's like, are you sure you get this value from this? So really it's about getting to the nitty gritty. It's not anything dramatic. It's not anything, it's not a paradigm shift. It's really in the level of detail, right, that you can go into. So that's on the cost side, on the value side. Of course, cost side, we've got it covered, because that's more sort of visible. And you can sort of build it all together and kind of put a case together.
Yeah, and I think there's a real interesting, full transparency, just like short little story. So we're standing up an inside sales team, and Nan's been very supportive of that. Thank you, Nan. I appreciate it. That's going to report into
You're
my
off
office.
script on me.
I know. I'm going to bring Audrey into this one because she's my partner in crime. But we've Cindy asked us to show her the money that this investment was going to return, and Nan supported it. But he said, show me the AI that we're going to use to do this inside sales function differently than it would have been done in the past. And so the tooling that we're looking for and what we're standing up around that ecosystem is an AI first thinking pattern for how we pull this together. And so we've been looking at tools and really pushing into where's the AI accelerator and how this tool is going to help us do outreach and how this tool is going to help us manage our pipeline. And but that's a collaboration. I'm just giving this as an example of the finance leader, the marketing head, the sales and growth leader, the CEO, to figure out how to get to a point where we could decide to make the investment to stand that team up and tool it out. And we're having very open and transparent conversations. And I'm willing to sign up for, with Audrey as my partner, would you come up here, partner? I'm just kidding. With Audrey as my partner, but willing to sign up for the return on investment that we're going to get as we stand something like that up. So those are the kinds of conversations that we would encourage you guys to be having inside your shops. Very transparent and collaborative, right? And trusting. Nan, your one takeaway for the folks, what would you
No, just thank you for the insightful questions and your time and opportunity to share this.
Now, because there's always push-ups, we're going to give Dan a big round of applause. And I'm going to do push-ups until you stop applauding.